I'm not sure.
We need
all the
Has.
What about CDEC?
We need
CDEC.
Oh, well, CDEC, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You know, you're Vega or Archon, and you're like, what kind of workout was that?
Yeah.
You know? What kind of, we had to play the strongest teams of the tournament. You know? Can I just play, someone else? Pretty tough.
Absolutely. I picked up on a key phrase that he keeps using, Marge, and he says, "We're not afraid of losing." How important is that, Merlini?
I think they're very fearless, and I actually think it's no coincidence that the playoff or the play-in teams got so far, just because the invited teams, they've had 2 or 3 months. They're probably watching the prize pool grow, and they're like, oh my gosh, all we need to do is make top 8, and that's a few $100,000, as opposed to the play-in teams. They're worried about just making it to the main event, and they've been preparing for 2 or 3 months just for a chance to get to this big prize pool. And that sort of mentality, once you get past a certain point, it really does start to affect you. And they're playing Dota just like, normal playing Dota. And you can hear it in March. You can see it in their play. They go with Bounty Hunter Spirit Baker first pick, just, whatever. We're going to kill people. We're going to do our thing. We're going to have fun. Whereas, a lot of the teams have had a much safer, less risky playstyle because they don't want to lose. They don't want to lose out at a chance at that money. And at the end of the day, it's just playing Dota. You have to play good Dota. You have to win.
Do you feel like that's what Empire, lacked? Like that fearlessness? Because that's normally the Team Empire that we know, right?
Yeah. I mean, Empire did play fearless. They tried to bring the fight to them, but this is what MVP has done every single game, though. And I think it's a big part of that as well, because saying that you're not scared and you're playing fearless is one thing if you're just farming and playing, a normal game of Dota. They don't do that. Yeah. MVP play crazy aggression, so they definitely are fearless.
They drafted to basically brawl. They didn't care about anything. They just wanted to fight the whole way through. There's a great example of that, actually, at 36 minutes. I don't know whether we can bring that one up, because at that particular point, there was that huge fight in the Radiant jungle that led to them taking racks all over the map. And this is a great example of brawling.
And at this point, they also have plenty of items on the PL, so he's a huge factor now. In the beginning, his team was carrying him, but right now, he's just taking over the show in these team fights. There's no good counter to him. He just goes in. Bane and TA don't do anything to him. Tuska doesn't do anything. He just goes completely ham.
And by the time Silence actually gets some hits in, he has to already blink around to try to find new targets. He just gets carried around. He doesn't actually get to contribute to this fight as much as he probably would want to.
Yeah, I mean, he has time to kill someone, but Peel is just killing people quicker. Yeah. And they have a Lina on top of that as well. The burst damage is definitely there. So yeah, it's just the speed of MVP.
We're going to move on to our next game fairly shortly, but I do want to save the last word for Team Empire, because we haven't mentioned them yet. Obviously, we're so caught up in the fabulous play of MVP Phoenix, but a very, very disappointing tournament for Team Empire, considering that they weren't that far away from a 2-0 yesterday against LGD.
I forgot what commentator said it during the group stage, but someone was talking about the Korean teams, and they said they out-Russianed the Russians. And that's kind of what happened here today.
Yeah, it did. Seb, what are your thoughts on the match as a spectacle?
I feel very bad for Empire, because they didn't show how good they are. They really didn't, but it's also part of the game, right? If you're not able to shine on the important match, then you're not as good as people think you are. And I also feel bad for Silent, because I felt like he played incredibly well, even though they lost. I think it was a stellar performance, but it always is from him. So it's a sad day. I don't like seeing people lose, but MVP did definitely deserve to win, and I thought they had they were smarter in terms of drafting as well. Empire came back, they were like, all right, you want to fight us? We're going to fight. They went for the Undying, the Tusk, for fighting lineup, and suddenly PL they drafted PL, so Empire got caught off guard, and they felt like they had to answer that late game potential, and they went into anti-mage, but it was a very mixed draft. They ended up fighting all the time with an anti-mage. I felt like MVP was just ahead.
Yeah, they said they had a plan, and I think they executed it perfectly. Shiva, in the way that they've come through MVP Phoenix, it is a great story. It's one of those fantastic stories that the international seems to throw up every single year in one way or another. We almost seem spoilt with it this year, because we've got the CDEC stuff going on in the upper bracket, we've got Newbie going out, Na'Vi going home, MVP Phoenix coming through the lower bracket, shocks all over the place, Team Secret losing as well. Where's it going to end?
Well, I don't think it is going to end. We have still so many teams in a running that have one of those stories, the underdog story. Everybody loves the underdog story, and it seems like a lot of teams have that type of story that are actually doing really well. I actually personally was slightly cheering for Empire. I know Resolution has been working really hard, but I think they're a very young team, and I think we will see them again next year as well.
Okay, very interesting, very interesting. Last question to you, Wagga. Shift of power is something we've talked a little bit about over the last couple of days, this east-west pendulum thing. If we throw the Koreans in the mix right now, there are Koreans and China dominating both lower and upper bracket. Is Is it too soon to start talking about shifts of power?
I think it's, we've had Western teams, we had, European teams, and we had Chinese teams winning. Maybe it's time for Korea to go all the way. But I just want to have a quick moment to say as well that it's a sad departure for Empire. It's one of the downsides to knowing people in the scene so well is you always feel a bit of sadness when you see a team get knocked out. So it's a tough day for them.
Yeah, it absolutely is. We're going to move on very shortly, but first of all, let's take a look at the bracket because it shows you that MVP Phoenix have truly risen from the ashes and are now in round 3 of the lower bracket. They will play the winner of Cloud9 versus Vici Gaming, which will be coming up next. You'll also see at the bottom half of the bracket as well, Complexity, Virtus Pro, Secret and Invictus Gaming. All still to play. Those games will be played tomorrow. So Cloud9 versus Vici Gaming will be our next match. Again, not a matchup that we expected to see, Ben, in the lower bracket.
Yeah, both of these teams 5 months ago, if you told me they were being in the lower bracket this early, I would not have believed you at all.
No, very shocking indeed. Cloud9 tricky after that C-Deck game. What do they learn from that? What do they take out of it, Wagger?
There was definitely a lot for them to learn from those games, but I don't think they should focus too much on games where they play really poor. They should probably look to their strengths, because it's so polarized between the good C9 when they're winning and the bad C9 when they're losing. They need to just find that rhythm again and bring that back.
Okay, before we go any further, let's just bring you the lineup for Cloud9. There we are then, the lineup for Cloud9, full of star players and star power. And what have they got that can be brought to the lower bracket? They are on the verge of that lower bracket, of course. Not perhaps where they thought they were going to be. Misery's going to lead the team out into the arena to, unsurprisingly, huge ovations, because they are a very popular team, it has to be said, not only with the fans online, but also with the fans here in the Key Arena. They are going head-to-head with a formidable foe as well. Here's the lineup for Vici Gaming. We are almost spoiled for stars in this match, it has to be said. They're on both sides of the aisle in the arena, and they are entering that arena right now. Ice, Ice, Ice on his way in. And Cloud9 also on their way. We've said it before, and, well, it bears repeating. Yet another huge match. They're all huge matches, let's be honest. At the International, it doesn't matter whether they're upper, lower, group stage or wild card. They're all massive games.
After yesterday, this was the match that I look forward to the most, though, actually. For today, we've had really good games, and I feel we're always spoiled at that. The TI, we have the best games of the year, but this is the one that I look forward to the most.
Why, specifically?
I believe they could be really evenly matched, and I think that Vici Gaming versus C9 is a game that's hard to predict in any single way, not just because of C9's fluctuating results, but also because of how Vici Gaming has a good way of understanding them, I think.
Okay, Seb?
I really want to see Cloud9 bounce back because I thought yesterday they really underperformed. Also because they're, like, to me, one of the only remaining hope of Western, like, European Dota right now. European Dota has played 13 games so far in the main event and won only 2 maps, not even games, just 2 maps. Like, European Dota is then getting wrecked completely at TI. I'm a European player, so I'd like to see them do a bit better.
Okay.
Although I'm happy the Koreans and the Chinese and the Americans are winning, but come on, that's a bit harsh. 2-11.
A bit harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. You're right. I mean, I didn't want to say wrecked, and I'm glad you kind of did, because then, it's a fair assumption so far. I think we need Cloud9 to step up, don't we? Shiva, what do you think?
I think this is definitely the match that I was looking forward to most today as well, just like Waga. I think we're going to have an amazing game on our hand, or games, multiples. I think we're going to see all 3 games, and in the words of Draskell, he said, as long as Cloud9 plays Dota, Dota's not going to be boring. So I'm expecting big things from this series, and mostly I'm just hoping for, kind of also slightly biased perhaps, that Cloud9 is going to do really well.
Okay. I don't mind a little bit of bias on it. It's absolutely fine. I can stay neutral.
We can be biased on the panel.
Yeah, it's no problem. So, Malini, just to balance it up, you're with Vici, right?
I am with Vici, actually. Yeah. I think they match up very well versus Cloud9. Cloud9 traditionally a little bit greedier. Vici very good at 5-inning and ending games, as they're pretty high up there in terms of being able to push high ground. And Cloud9 has generally responded to that by trying to be as aggressive as Vici is early and met with really poor success. But I think this time they turned over a new leaf.
Okay. Generally, and this is a question to all of you, open for discussion, key player on each side. Who do you feel it is?
Fada on Cloud9, I say.
Who?
Fada on Cloud9.
Okay.
I'm actually more for supports on C9. I think they're more consistent in general. But
I think for C9 it's Misery. For Vici, I'm looking at How. Mostly. How has been... when I first started casting Dota, I at some point casted the TI2 group stages, and I followed Tong Fu. And Tong Fu had How playing in it, and he was a mid-player at that point, and he played loads of Queen of Pain. Luckily, he's been playing that again this tournament. And I just became a fan. I can't help it. So I'm looking for him as a carry. He transitions so well into being a carry, farming, but also being super aggressive, because he never really let go of that mid mentality that he needs to be active in the game, and I just love to watch him play.
How is a monster, and he showed that TI4 if nothing else. So I definitely respect him as probably the strongest player on Vici.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who do you think is the most inconsistent player that you're looking for a consistent performance from?
That's probably on C9's side. If you're asking me, it's hard to say. Like, Eternal Envy goes for the big plays, and sometimes that can fail very hard, but it also can give huge payoffs. So I guess that's inconsistent in a way, but it can be worth it. You don't always have to be consistent if it's that good when it pays off.
I would mostly say Bone7 perhaps, not because, he is slightly inconsistent, but I compare him then to Ice Ice Ice, and Ice 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 is just way more consistent than Bone7 if you compare the two. Not that Bone7 is always inconsistent, it's just comparing the two, Ice 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 takes the cake for me.
It's hard to compare players from team to team, I feel, because they also have different roles, and Bone7 is the guy that's going to have to find openings, or they put a lot of pressure on him because both Fada and Envy are quite greedy. And he doesn't get the space to be greedy. He has to make something happen with very little. Whereas Ice 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 has more space, in my opinion. He's been given more space by his team.
Okay, we are down to 30 seconds before the draft starts for the first game. Nerves are obviously jangling in that booth. And your nerves are now going to be jangling because I'm going to put you on the spot. Predictions very quickly. Melanie?
2-0 Vici.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to go with my head says Vici 2-1. My heart says Cloud9 2-1. So I'm going to go with my heart 2-1 for Cloud9.
Okay.
I have exactly the same feeling, but I'm going to go with my head. I believe Vici.
My heart says Cloud9 2-1 and my head says nothing.
Come on.
Okay, draft time for game one. Cloud9 versus Vici Gaming. Everyone, hold on to your seats seriously for this one, because I've got a feeling this could be an absolutely monstrous game on a roller coaster we haven't seen yet at the International.
Priorities are going to change. I don't think Bounty Hunter will be let through any game in this series. I think Wisp will be high contention, and I actually think Broodmother is going to slip by at least one of these games, because both of these